talk to me a little bit about, as a professor, what do you do to kind of keep up with social media and apps?
I interview, I listen, I learn, not only with friends' children, but we do surveys. In particular, right now, I'm working with a grant with Medina City Schools, and so like most people, I'm looking at what students are using, but also learning how are they using it. And I'm also very fortunate to have a number of high school students in my classes with the crossover classes, and so I get to learn from those students as well.
What have you, I guess, what are some apps that kind of strike you as a concern through your research and your study?
That's a really good question. My concern is that parents be aware, but it's not just apps. In fact, even historically, when we look back, Dr. George Gerbner noted that you wouldn't necessarily invite this person into your house. Why would you let them come in through the television? I think that's just as relevant today. If you would not have this group of people that your child is communicating via apps over to your home, why is your child spending time with them via an app? Now, ways that friends' children are working and navigating this, instead of using apps, why aren't you building apps? Helping to be of service to the community, projects, hobbies, that other interests, as opposed to apps that oftentimes students think that they have protection, that that's not there. For example, anonymity. And in another way is, it's a small village that even though people say you're anonymous, when you post it, they tell a friend, it gets passed around the group socially and verbally anyway. So even though the student may not have an identification on that exact message, what fun is it if you don't share it with someone? And that's the backlash that we also end up seeing.
What's other backlash? I mean, could this also contribute to cyberbullying in some way?
Cyberbullying is the biggest and most negative. The idea that it continues after, so even if a message is removed, or right now the messages quickly disintegrate, that they don't have a long time. One of the high schoolers that I spoke with said, well, there's no problem because the picture disappears in so many minutes. What she wasn't aware of is that on the other end, her enemy, a friend, was taking a picture of the message that she thought would disintegrate right away. So there is a naive assumption that there is genuine protection and that others either have, this is all in fun, we're just joking, as opposed to recognizing the true hurt and harm that can emerge from name calling, describing, and being hurtful.
In that particular, were you talking about Snapchat in that particular app?
Exactly. Yes. What happened was that this Snapchat right now is the most popular, with 2/3 of high schoolers using it a minimum of 3 times a day. And the idea is there is a security that, okay, I can send this and it'll disappear. Well, you send it and then you have a friend take a picture of it before it disappears, is what's going on. So the students who are sending it are surprised. The students who have the pictures then end up bullying the other students. So the idea that it is truly going to dissolve and not exist is non-existent, especially with they're now taking the next step in this way.
What are some issues that you've seen with the after-school app?
After-school app, mean-spirited, false identifications. So the students will at first identify with the school in order to have access, but then they create other names, other identifiers, and represent themselves as other people than who they really are. So you're not receiving messages from who you think you're receiving them. And not only the heartache, the genuine harm and hurt that's done, and the lying things that would never have been said face-to-face are indeed stated electronically.
Another issue that I read with the after-school app is the verification of what school you go to. Talk a little bit about that and how someone can almost pose as somebody else, or even an adult posing as a child, because the verification goes through Facebook.
Exactly. Facebook is used as the confirming factor of using after school. Not only is it not necessarily the person who they claim to be, but as false Facebook pages can be created, that it is not the person exactly as you're saying. It's adults representing themselves as students or even teachers in the schools that we've seen in terms of cases. So yes, they aren't who they claim to be in posting, and then also the accountability for what is said.
How, as a parent, or looking at it from a parent's perspective, how concerning is that?
It's not only parents, also teachers. I think this is a wonderful issue for parent-teachers organizations to tackle and to stay current. Especially, for example, Facebook is passé. The high schoolers are not interested. The old timers are on it. It's no longer relevant. But I believe that the email, the updates is a wonderful parent-teachers organization that not only that parents be updated, but they learn the strengths and weaknesses of each of the different options, but also let their children know, even to the point, and I was sharing with you, that I pay to be tutored by a high schooler. What are they currently using in what ways, so that I know, in not only surveying the participants, but also working with them, what's current now, because they will change so quickly as what is their favorite apps. It's definitely a peer pressure in addition to a relative advantage skill.
How often would you say that the popular apps change?
Every 6 months. Vine, not only do they change quickly, but how they end up being used also. So even if the students are very aware of it being illegal with sexting, that, okay, it's illegal with sexting, but again, so then when we had Snapchat coming up, but it dissolves, it goes away, how do you know? And this is how it's being followed up.
What are some of the popular apps, I guess, now that parents should be aware of that could be?
After school is key because of its promising confidentiality, anonymity. How Snapchat is being used is also really a key element. And even though it's not popular, false pretenses of creating even a Facebook page is definitely an item, and as you noted, as how it ends up being verified. So hands down, Snapchat is the one that I'm watching with the greatest frequency.
And what are, I guess, some of the concerns? I guess, what should parents be looking for? Are there any signs? Are there any? Yeah.
The quantity of time. What are the children talking about their telephone and Snapchat use? What ways that they're using the phone? Not only following up, definitely joining and having your child teach you, show me what you're doing with Snapchat. No, they're not going to show you the most extreme, but you can monitor and have a better understanding of what is going on. In fact, our own library at Wright State University, the Dunbar Library, is having a session this month to encourage people to come and learn what are the current and how are they being used with what, in what ways.
With technology, and like you've said, it's ever changing.
Yeah.
How in the world, and it seems like you said every 6 months something new is coming out. What is the best thing a parent can do to make sure their child isn't getting involved in something they shouldn't be involved in?
I strongly encourage schools, parents, places of worship, hold sessions of media literacy, not just apps, but definitely the cell phones, the photography, the audio, the video, the elements, and talking about sharing cases where these materials are posted and are up past what the funny moment of it is, that this could have an impact on your life. What you're showing, what you're saying, is that it's, again, old school, but when grandmothers are saying don't do anything that can't be put on the front page of the newspaper or can't be broadcast on the TV station, talking and having those conversations with the children that, okay, this is how people are hurt, this is in this way, and this is how it's caught, and all the more reason. You can use it, you can understand it, but let's use it in a way that either serves the community, and then that's also very exciting because that creativity ends up being taken to serve charities and positive aspects of community outreach, as opposed to the boredom and the idea of doing it out of sight. So definitely monitoring, talking, media literacy skills, and definitely networking of parents at schools, hands down. Not only teachers, but also parents should all be members of the same after-school apps.
We talked a little bit about this app promises anonymity, but that's not really the case.
Exactly, because the anonymity is based up, well, okay, first the difference between anonymity and confidentiality. The anonymity is we won't put identifying information with the poster, with who's posting on the session. But you can describe yourself, you can add, so you can identify yourself. But that complete identification is related to a Facebook page. And that's to say that we don't know whether or not the Facebook page is legit for which the identifier has been created. So you don't know that you're working with other kids. It could be still an adult. And bottom line, what we know, even with the Attorney General posting, people who've conducted sexual crimes, the posting, that's not to say that they're not able to get into the same rooms by creating a Facebook page or using the Facebook page of a family member.
Any other apps that you feel like I didn't touch upon that teens are using that?
Snapchat's the number one right now. Snapchat is the key. After school is the anonymous one, is the most popular, is the second segment, and also the linkages. Now, again, the fun part is the number of students creating the apps. That we have talented students in high school who are creating original apps that are helping food banks, animal placement. So it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of creativity and hope and excitement as well. Sharing high school results of sports athletics, contests, debate teams. So the tool is in the hands of how the person uses it. It's not easy to say don't do it or do it when media literacy is so important for all aspects of our lives.